Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm taking a look at the TP-Link W2400, which TP-Link was kind enough to send out because I actually reached out to them and said, hey, my Wi-Fi is kind of not reliable depending on where out in my house I am. Can you send me out a deco system? And they sent me out this one, so I'm gonna take a look at this. This is available from Walmart in case you're interested, and it's roughly $100. So we're looking at more of a budget solution here, but I will go ahead and leave the link in the description down below. Of course, you could always just run out to a physical store, interact with another human, and get your Wi-Fi set up that way. Either way works. Let's get to the review. Now, the reason that I brought up the price in the intro is really a big one, and that is that this is not a high-end deco system. TP-Link actually has several of these deco type units, a couple of tower types. I believe the M4 is the other one that's a little bit higher end than this one, and then they have their other ones that are more like smoke detector looking things that are like little white hockey pucks that you can hang all over the walls and ceilings. But this one is one of their lower end SKUs. In fact, it might be their entry level one. And at $100, this will get you 2 access points, which you can use via the app, and the app is super simple, and it's a great way to actually set these guys up, though it does have somewhat limited feature set compared to a normal router, but it does everything that I would need it to do. I could imagine a scenario, though, where a power user would find it inadequate. I digress. Through the app, you can set this into access point mode or router mode. I actually use these in access point mode because I have a really nice router. The problem is my house is a tri-level built in the 70s. What that basically means is I have a basement, I have a ground floor, and then above the basement and above the ground floor, I have a second floor. So I actually have 3 levels, and my router was residing in the basement, which is where the internet actually comes into the house, which is fine. It just meant that the Wi-Fi upstairs and then on the ground floor and around the house was just sort of unreliable. My phone didn't really do a great job with it. My laptop seemed to do just fine with the router. But regardless, I added these guys, and I did see a significant reliability jump in that I wasn't having to wait on the internet to sort of find the router again. My phone was connecting to these mesh to this mesh network rather very nicely throughout the house. So I had great reliability by adding these guys in, and again, very easy to set up. On the back of these units, you do have 2 Ethernet ports, and the M4 system has 2 gigabit ports. The W2400 does not, and these do feature Ethernet backhaul support, so you can use an Ethernet cable to actually get the internet to the access points. You don't have to rely on them to beam the internet to each other, which I just run the Ethernet cable directly into them. And even though the 5 gigahertz band on these access points supports something like 800 and it's on the box somewhere, 867 megabits, and the 2.4 gigahertz band supports 300 megabits per second. The problem with all that is the Ethernet jacks that I'm using to get the internet actually to these things, because I'm trying to avoid latency. I'm trying to avoid relying on other units in the house to actually be powered. The Ethernet jacks only support 100 megabit because they're only the fast Ethernet jacks. They're not gigabit. So I am really purposely, in this case, limiting myself down to 100 megabits per second. So if you're somebody that has a home network that's set up for gigabit, maybe you have a gigabit NAS, you have a gigabit router, you will bottleneck your system if you run your Ethernet through this. Now, you can always use just an Ethernet cable to connect this off of your network, sort of maybe one dedicated Ethernet straight to this from a dedicated router that also has a gigabit Ethernet jack on it. But if you are running your entire network through this, so you're running this as a router mode and you're running everything off of one of these Ethernet ports, you're suddenly limiting yourself down to 100 megabits per second. Now, what this is great for is people that don't have network storage and people that have internet speeds that are either 100 megabits per second or slower, because even wired directly in as a router, this will take full advantage of that, and it'll do a good job getting the signal out to the rest of your house as well. You just need to be aware that is a significant limitation in my mind, and if I was purchasing this for myself, that would actually be a deal breaker. I would go ahead and step up to a different TP-Link unit. Though I would like to stress, I would step up to another TP-Link unit because I've been very impressed with the app. I've been very impressed with the wireless reliability. It's really just that one feature that kind of kills it for me. Now, I do want to make one mention of the Deco app with setting these things up. When you first plug one of these in, it'll give you a blue light, and you'll download the Deco app, get into the Deco app, and it will automatically find these guys on your network, or rather they'll be beaming out their own network at that point, but it'll disconnect from any Wi-Fi that you may already have going, and it'll find where the Deco unit is. It'll connect to it. It'll let you set up your network ID, your password. You can do things like check out your internet usage. You can block certain devices on your network. You can set up guest networks on your network so that if you have somebody coming into your house, they have their own dedicated network, which is separated from yours completely, so they won't be seeing all your devices. They won't be able to access your network storage, for example, if they're on the guest network. So all that is very, very useful with this particular device. And you can do other things in the back end, like set up port forwarding if you're using these in router mode. And of course, you can actually update the firmware directly through the app. So everything is put in that app, and it's actually very easy to use. It's a very visual app with simple buttons. It is not the typical back end of a router that you have to go to the specific IP address on a computer and mess around with things there. It's actually really easy and really user-friendly, which is kind of the market I think TP-Link is going for with these particular units anyways. So conclusion time with the TP-Link W2400 system. If you are an enthusiast or you have network storage that's set up for gigabit and you're going to be using this as a router, then probably pass on this Deco unit and get a different one. I did really like the wireless experience the W2400 gives, and I think that has a lot of value to it. But if you have fast internet beyond 100 megabits per second and you're going to be using this as a router, it's actually probably in your better benefit to go ahead and look elsewhere and get something a little bit more expensive, but with gigabit ports on it, because then you'll be able to take full advantage of that full gigabit or whatever your bandwidth happens to be for your internet connection. But if you're somebody that has a slower internet connection, 100 megabits and less, and you don't rely on network storage or a gigabit home network, then this thing might actually be perfect for covering either a larger apartment or just a house with multiple floors that maybe one access point just isn't quite good enough to get you really solid Wi-Fi throughout your house. It's a really impressive unit at just $100, and I really like it in the use case that I used it for, and that is expanding the network that I already had and just using them strictly as access points. It's worked wonders for reliability, and I'm just gonna leave it plugged in. Eventually I may upgrade it so I can get that full gigabit Wi-Fi going throughout the house, or at least as close to gigabit Wi-Fi as I can. But for the moment, this is a great solution, and I would highly recommend it if you're doing it basically the same way I did. But of course, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about these types of mesh networks? And if you have any great experiences with your own mesh network, let us know in those comments down below what your mesh solution is of choice. Are you going with TP-Link? Are you going with like the Google Home Wi-Fi? What system are you using? And really, even if it's a bad system, let us know that too, so we know what to avoid. Let us know all those thoughts down below. And of course, if you liked the video, give it a like, share, subscribe, comment. Again, the link to this guy, the W2400 to Walmart, is in that description down below. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.